all, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on Action Learning Project. I am Pranav from People Matters. And would take you through the agenda for today's webinar. We have the privilege of having with us Professor N Radhakrishnan, Professor, Mentor, Learning Facilitator, Great Lakes Institute of Management. First of all, I would like to give you a brief on the L&D Leadership League. L&D Leadership League is an initiative which is specially designed for L&D leaders, helping them take talent management to the next level. This league is a combination of a bunch of activities like the newsletter, masterclasses like this one, hangouts, half-day event, and the awards. Just to give you a brief on the webinar, this masterclass will focus on Action Learning Project. Action Learning Project process, what goes into translating teaching into actions. Key requirements, the soft and hard requirements of an Action Learning Project. Benefits, what can be expected from an Action Learning Project. A little about our today's presenter. Professor N Radhakrishnan specializes in enabling teams, leaders, and organizations strive for excellence and realize their potential. Professor Radhakrishnan's corporate career experience over a 16 years period inclusive of marketing, quality, and product management in the manufacturing and aeronautics sector. Over a subsequent 23-year period, he has been a consultant, a mentor, and a trainee. The sponsors for today's webinar for helping us make this event possible are Center for Creative Leadership, Cornerstone on Demand, Knowledgescape, Pearson Talent Lens, and Great Lakes Institute of Management. We have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of the webinar. For those watching the live webinar, you can submit the question at any time during the presentation through the Q&A section. We will try to respond to as many questions as time allows. We have a full exciting agenda for today's webinar. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Professor N Radhakrishnan.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you very much. And good morning to all of you, and welcome to this masterclass on Action Learning Project. The coverage is split into three sections for this presentation. One is the ALP process. The second one is the benefit of this ALP, and the third one is the key requirements for running an ALP. I would start with the process using a single topic as a model. So supposing you are doing let us say classroom training on emotional intelligence, let's say a 1 day or a 2 day program. After this 1 day or 2 days, there is an interval of approximately 4 weeks. The 4 weeks is a very, not a very rigid thing. It depends on the kind of time available as well as the time required. And during this period, the participants are given a project, which I'm calling as the Action Learning Project, or ALP. In this case, as an example, I put it as delegation. Delegation could be one of the projects, which means they have to delegate one task to at least one reportee in the next 4 weeks and sort of talk about that experience. So this will be followed by a review after 4 weeks, which will again be in the classroom, and the review will be primarily aimed at the participants sharing their experience, and not necessarily that they have achieved their objective, but what experience went through, and therefore how it benefits the whole learning process. This is the overall sort of structure for ALP. I have shown a single topic as one example. We are also doing one in which it's a multiple topic. For example, we are doing a program for teachers, which is called the Teacher Empowerment. And that's a larger kind of course in which the structure is like this. It has got 5 modules spread over approximately about 8 months. And there is a time gap between each module. So when the teachers come back for module 2, they review the action learning project given in module 1. So it goes on like that. So in such a situation, we can start from a lower level of complexity to a higher level of complexity of the problem. So this is another model which people can use. So this is basically the ALP process. Coming to the benefits of ALP, I use the conscious competency matrix as a background to explain this whole thing. Let us take the first case of emotional intelligence. Probably when the participants came for the emotional intelligence program, for a 1-day or a 2-day program, they were not aware of the various aspects of emotional intelligence, which is unconscious incompetence. It's not that they are completely unconscious, but it could be partially. And once let us say the 1 or 2 days is completed, hopefully they are more aware of managing emotions and how managing emotions can enhance performance. At a conscious level, they're aware of it, and that's at the quadrant 2. End of that 2 days, we give a project, in this case, delegation. And after 4 weeks, when we come and do this review, which means review the experience of all the participants. It's a discussion with the facilitator as well as among the participants. So preferably it is done together rather than one-on-one. And they share the experience. When they do this process of sharing, the hypothesis is that it slowly moves into the conscious competence quadrant. And I'll try and explain how this happens. The first thing that happens is, invariably when most of us go through a training program, we're quite happy about it for the next 1 week. But invariably, the notes as well as the books are safely kept, so safely that you hardly even visit them. But the action learning project sort of nudges you to revisit those learnings that are there because you have to do a project. That's the first benefit you get from ALP. The second benefit in this case, with relevance to emotions, is it sometimes validates some of the concepts spoken during the program. For example, when they are doing this delegation, it's likely they get the manager, participant gets a little frustrated because the reportee doesn't do it the way he wants it to be done. And that can be a frustrating moment can be there. But obviously, it will validate the understanding that the frustration is not caused by the reporting, but it is internally generated. When we talk of it in the classroom, this may not be so well understood, but when they experience and realize it, then they agree that emotions belong to me, and I need to handle that positively. So this kind of a validation can take place. It can also validate things like that emotions are neutral. Invariably, we say that anger is negative, happiness is positive, but all emotions are neutral, and there is a possibility that this neutrality of emotions can get validated when we do this project. The third benefit that comes is there is a possibility of re-examining some of the beliefs that the participant holds. For example, a participant may hold the belief that once if I tell my reportee, he has to do it. That's it. Why should I go on telling him? But in delegation, you understand that there are people on the other side who sometimes require more than once kind of telling. And they are that kind, and you need to perhaps adapt to that. So you're actually re-looking at the belief that once I tell, and that's it to, can I tell more than once? So you're able to re-examine that belief. There are some people I have come across who say, why should I encourage? That's nothing. That's his job. He has to do his job. Why should I encourage? A very strong belief, some of them have it. But when they do this, there is a possibility that saying that encouragement, which again is an emotional competence, can motivate, can make the person much involved in the delegation process. Again, the experience happens, and that's how between the quadrant 2 and 3 the movement takes place. So once this belief is re-examined, because some of them are competing beliefs, and change is very difficult because you tend to say, that's me. That's me, but can you be something else also? Is a question that is raised in the minds of the participants. The fourth thing that happens is there is some amount of relevance. For example, we may talk about empathy in emotional intelligence, and somebody say, why should I be empathetic? And that's not required. But when he's able to exhibit empathy through this project and tries it very consciously to be a little empathetic with the subordinate when he fails or makes a mistake, and he finds that the relationship is much better because the reporter again comes back and talks to him because the manager is more accessible and he knows that he can share his frustration with the manager, and therefore the relevance of empathy is much better embedded in the whole process. And lastly, there is a possibility, I would only say it's a possibility that you may practice this much more rather than leave it at quadrant 3, because if you have to move to quadrant 4, you require sustained practice, especially in the area of soft skills. And therefore, I will only say that this process helps and says, hey, why don't I try this a couple of times more? It's likely to happen. That's the benefit that I have come across doing for a couple of clients. The key requirements are from the organization. The key requirement is that they must allow this training interval review. This structure has to be done. Many of them say, why can't you do it in 2 days and finish it? Then the whole purpose goes off. The structure has to be training, interval, and review. That's extremely important. The other one is it's nice to have an internal anchor. It could be the L&D, the HR, whoever, and the internal anchor can participate in the program as well as help the participants during the ALP. Because there are sometimes sanctions required. There are sometimes they need to deal with their superiors. And the internal anchor, his only major requirement is he must be able to get along well with people. His influencing skills should be very good. Such an anchor can help participants a bit when they are doing this ALP. They can also perhaps sometimes, when they have a doubt, they may not be able to reach the facilitator, but they can reach the internal anchor and get them clarified. And that's from the organizational perspective. From the facilitator perspective, the most important thing is structuring a project. For example, it can be, I have structured in this example delegation. It's a little more deeper competence as compared to empathy. You can even structure being empathetic and trying to be empathetic with people can itself be a project. Now, the structuring of the project will depend on the kind of time you have, the kind of audience, and at what level they are, and that will depend. So that's a very important aspect of the whole action learning project. I've come to my conclusion. So thank you very much. Please. Yep. We have done this action learning project for Hyundai extensively for about 120 people at Great Lakes. And we have also done a study. Our team headed by Ranjana has done a study on the action learning project. We've done 2 projects with them, covering about 150 people. And those findings are likely to be available perhaps by the end of the month. And maybe we could send to People Matters the findings from the AAP so that you could take a look at the real what was really or happened in those days. Thank you very much. I look forward to questions from you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Professor. I know that everyone would have had a very nice learning experience. So we'll be taking some questions from the attendees. And so Atul has asked us, for what level of participants ALP is most effective, according to you?
My experience I'll share. I have done it right from supervisory staff, which I'm doing for a multinational company now, to managers, senior managers. We have done that in Great Lakes. Hyundai, for example, is that. There's another multinational with whom we work. We did even for people who are 2 to 3 levels below the board. So it applies to, I think, in my opinion, it applies to anybody. Does that answer the question?
Yes. So do you think ALP is being optimally utilized in the Indian industry?
Frankly, I have not done any study on that area. But from what little I have done, I don't find many people employing this kind of a structure in training. When I'm saying it with relevance to my limited experience in training with Great Lakes and ISB. Many people would find it very, very difficult to get people again after 4 weeks. So they say, oh, logistics is a problem. And some of them are also driven by the commercial dimension to it. And they say, just do it. So my gut feel is it's not very different, but please take it with a caution.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Vikas would like to know some examples of conscious incompetence. So if you would like to share it with him.
Conscious, Pranav, once more, can you repeat?
Yeah, conscious incompetence.
See, for example, when we did in Hyundai the delegation part of it, many of them really felt it's fine to make a mistake. And because a learner, a person who's learning a new job will make mistakes. And can I deal with my anxiety a little more better than immediately sort of tell him that, hey, you made a mistake and it's, really good stuff. So I tell them that if it's a very critical job, be careful. But if it's not critical, allow him to make the mistake, because through the mistake he learns. So they have very clearly spelled out this experience of saying that they allowed mistakes to happen. And when they worked with those mistakes, the participant also got confident. He was able to solve it. Some of them, they felt that the participants themselves were able to solve the mistake and do it correctly. And the whole thing gave the participant a feeling of having done a great job and, motivated to do more. Moreover, said, sir, give us some more tasks that we could like to do. So such clear things have occurred in that. And they also felt that many times I shout and I think that's wrong. I am shouting and I think I should start reducing the way I am shouting. So those kinds of things have come, and they have also started practicing it. They're at least very conscious and they're saying that no, I'm holding back a little bit. So that's where it is. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I hope it does. And the thing is, we have been receiving many questions from the attendees. And Garima asks us, how can one design an ALP involving 3 to 4 competencies? Is there a limit of number of competencies in an ALP?
No. For example, I showed you the model for teacher empowerment, in which, for example, in the first module, we would have given them something on emotional intelligence and self-esteem, a project to work on. After the second module, where they would have been tuned to being an assertive teacher, we would give them a project on assertiveness. We structure a project on assertiveness. If supposing we, let us say, take during the second module another topic like handling expectations of the students, of the teachers, of the management. So we would structure a project on handling expectations. How do I handle expectations, and how do I able to resolve them? So you could give various kinds of projects depending on what you're doing in each of those modules and what is the end purpose of the whole intervention. Depending on that, the facilitator has to work out the end purpose of the intervention, what topics are dealt with in the module, and how they all tie up, sort of coming together. So that's what we did for the teacher empowerment, and the final presentation is on 24th of January, and we would find what they have done at that point of time.
Thank you for such a wonderful answer, Professor. So, Kiran asks us, how will ALP help us in personal as well as professional growth?
I think if you go back to the metrics, if you start becoming more effective in your delegation, I'll use the same example. Earlier, your delegation style was not very encouraging. Your reportee was not very happy, and he or she was very reluctant to do the job because the way you handled that was not good. There would be a shift in the way you are handling it now. A lot consciously. You will definitely, in the quadrant 3, will be very, very consciously handling that. And when you handle that, you would find that the approachability and the willingness to take a task from you increases. Vis-a-vis earlier, the minute you give something, I say, hey, no, I don't want to do this because I know that if I take up this, I'm going to be in trouble. But now I know that I won't be in trouble. I think he's there to support and encourage me. So this is definitely a professional growth. And if it is a project involving your own self, which is, let us say, for example, if you take self-esteem, which is very intra-oriented, and if you are able to work on yourself to the dimension of self-worth and enhance your self-worth and feel quite nice about it, then that is an intrapersonal skill that you would develop. And that will help you the way you deal with people. And but it all requires the kind of work that you do at that point, and then with that project, Does it answer the question?
Yes, I'm sure it does, Professor. So we are being bombarded with questions right now, and I know for a fact that we won't be able to take all of them. Dr. Atul asks us, what about its application among college faculty? So how can we utilize it in college faculty and improve the learning of college faculty as well?
Personally, I have not done this, Doctor. But from what I've done for teachers, which is actually for the school teachers, my guess is it can be extended. But what we'll have to be clear is what are we wanting to do with the faculty of the college? What exactly do you want to do with it? Do you want to make them a little more comfortable with the way they handle a class? Can they allow, for example, more questioning? Sometimes they're very scared that questions are asked by the students. If you want to do that culture of questioning, the students able to question you, and through the process of questioning, the learning deepens. If you want to move to that kind of a level, you could give very specific projects to help the questioning process, as well as an infra project, for you to be very comfortable dealing with that uncertainty. The fear is, if I allow for questions, what will happen if I can't answer a question? It's okay if you don't answer a question. Tell them, look, I don't have an answer. Can I get back to you? Now, to say this, you require certain amount of strength within yourself. So you might have to structure one or two projects and run them simultaneously. I'm just giving one example to the teacher. But all that will depend on what are you ultimately wanting the faculty of the college to, what position are you wanting them to come to in the teaching learning process.
Yes, I'm sure that it can be utilized in a very good way for teachers as well. So we have a question from Anjali, and she would like you to recommend some books for action learning project so that we can go through them and increase our knowledge base as well.
Anjali, frankly, I haven't taken this from any book or any literature. I picked up concepts from various places and then put together and tried it out for the last couple of years, and I'm basing it on it. But there is one book I am frankly not able to get the title. When I go back home, I will fill it to Pranav. That does give some idea about this, but not in the form that I have told you. But it does talk about, I think it's called Knowing, Doing or something. I may be wrong. I'll do one thing. I'll send that name and author to you by end of the day. So if it's possible, please share it with Anjali. That's the only book that I think closest comes to my mind. Is it okay enough?
Yeah, maybe in that case, Professor, in the near future, we can have a book from you.
Oh, okay.
So,
thanks. Yes, sir.
Yes. So, Professor Sahil asks us, considering the fact that a lot of employees in MNCs find it really difficult to motivate themselves to even come to training sessions even once, how do you think ALP can be successful in an MNC KPO format?
No, I don't think ALP will be a driver to get somebody into the training program. I don't think so. That's my feel. We have to find out why is it that they don't come for a training program. I think somewhere the problem lies beyond ALP. ALP is more a tool to make sure that there's a lot of reinforcement, assimilation, enthusiasm once you come for a training program. If somebody is not coming for a training program, I really don't have an answer to that. You'll have to see some other dimension within the organization which is perhaps hampering that initiative.
Okay. So Saswatiya asks us that how to identify action learning projects for different kinds of programs for different target audiences ranging from technical to behavioral, etc.
The way to do it is, if for example, let us say take a topic like, if you want a technical topic like, let us say value engineering. So if you've done a value engineering program and people understand the process of the value engineering, then you structure a project on value engineering saying that, can you go back and identify areas where value engineering can be applied? So even the identification itself can be a project. If the depth of learning in the first session itself is very high, they can say that, can you also not only identify, can you also come with alternative ways of doing it, so the value proposition through the value engineering technique. So that's what the facilitator has to do, depending on what is he aiming at. So I don't think I can give you a rule. The only rule I can say is, what are you wanting to do for the learning that you have created in the class? How do you want that person to get it into the conscious competence area, and therefore from there move on to the unconscious competence area? So that's something the facilitator is doing. That's why I said the structuring of a project is extremely important, because typically based on the topic that is being dealt. Is it okay?
Thank you for your wonderful insights, Professor. And
sure.
I know that there are many more questions, but we are out of time and we will not be able to take any more. But I'm sure that you can take them offline.
Okay. Sure.
So with this question,
you can send it to me. Yeah. Thank you very much
yes.
to all the participants, patient listening, and the wonderful questions. And thank you, Pranav, for facilitating this whole event. Thank you very much. Ranjana and me join in thanking you also. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this question and answer session, we are going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, we thank today's webinar partners, Center for Creative Leadership, Cornerstone on Demand, Knowledge, PSN Talent Lens, and Great Lakes Institute of Management. Finally, our special thanks to Professor N Radhakrishnan, the speaker for this webinar, for his time and invaluable information that he has shared with us today. And I would like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. We will come back to you with many more. That concludes today's webcast. Thank you.